Alright, was Stephen Hawkins a parasitic nematode? Yeah, absolutely. Have a look at the body, right? If someone looks like a worm, a parasitic worm, chances are they are totally controlled by one. And, okay, so at the end of your life, if you look like an overhunched worm with a spine that's all over the place, and unable to awaken the front brain centers where the conceptual understandings are located in the nervous system, well, that seems obvious, doesn't it? So, after removing 130 meters of parasites so far, especially from reproductive system and kidneys, they are completely controlling the entire belief system of human entities, and that is keeping us in a master and slave reality. So this machine that we call Matrix is, I mean, we're a little bit more than a brain of a machine. If we're thinking like a machine or a computer, well then obviously we've got a lot of gunk in our body that is controlling that to keep us connected to the machine that we know as the holographic nature of the Matrix. And unawakened front brain center means they're only using maximum 10% of the brain capacity divided by the endocrine glands or the chakra system, 7 times 7. So what, 1.5% of the brain capacity per chakra? And if we've got all this gunk in the lower half of the body, then we're using a maximum of what, 4% perception power? And then we're looking up at somebody who has a bucket load of completely controlling them parasitic entities and nematodes. Because if we're not moving the body, have a look in nature. If we have a stagnant tree, we get lichen, moss, mold, mildew, and parasites grow on that. But fruit and food obviously has antifungal, antiparasitic properties and acids and things to prevent that. But if we're not eating very well and have a, strong, sexy body, we can't fight these things off. So they eventually grow and take over. You'll see at the old lady that's walking down the street with the cane, and she's like hunched over in this because she's got no energy coming up to the top half of her body. It's all focused down here trying to get rid of the gunk. So we're simply incapable of thinking with the subconscious body. And also, if a person has the inability to control their own body and maintain their own hair, it's just a maintenance job where you have to rebuild the temple to be super sexy and powerful and, godlike in the universe, then they're not doing a very good job of their body. Because in Ayurveda and Chinese medicine and the nervous system, here is kidneys, gallbladder, and obviously liver is attached to that. So if we're in an average condition with a whole bunch of shite throughout our entire 40, 50, 60 years, then that's the thoughts we're getting at the front of the brain. That's how the body works. You can argue with it, you just argue with yourself. And who wants to do that? It's not beneficial for anybody. And of course, let's have a look at brain patterns or thought patterns. If we're thinking like a parasitic worm, then our brain patterns are going through that. We're going to project that out into the world, into theories. And of course, people will buy into that because they've got a terrible, disgusting body, and their parasitic nematodes, or demons, if you want to use a Christian term, are going to go, oh yes, that's right, I've got them within me, that must sound good because he's got more parasitic nematodes and they're stronger and bigger than mine, and then I have to look up to that person with my perspective to call them, some sort of hero, like, or God-like, or father-like figure, because the person is toxic on the right side and they can't come up with their own independent thinking. Yeah, exactly. So, it seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? You haven't figured it out yet? Well, you better get rid of the parasites and then you'll be able to think for yourself. And I am witnessing myself and going, geez, if this guy's saying that that person's like a genius and he's telling them that they're a nematode, then he must be pretty wise and pretty smart. Yeah, I know it's ridiculous. And of course, let's look at someone else who knew about these things and had a quality body and actually actioned rather than just theories in the head. Because we can all do theories in the head. Every person on the planet, every creature with a brain can do that. Doesn't mean they're any good because they have to go through the nervous system for all the thought patterns to come back. And if we're cut off and unable to move, and then totally reliant on a machine to maneuver around and to think and talk for us, well then we've lost the power of speech. That means our nervous system has to be completely retarded and pathetic. How can we rely on someone who's only got a nervous system capacity up here? And that's full of parasitic nematodes because they never moved and they didn't have a good diet and they didn't have a strong, powerful body. That's ridiculous, really. Who can we rely on for understanding the universe? Nikola Tesla. Why? Well, first he was tall, he was a big TV antenna, he actually got things done, he proved it in reality in our world, not just thinking. And Einstein himself said that, you know, when someone asks him what's it like being the most intelligent person in the world, he says, I don't know, ask Nikola Tesla. Because if we're unable to get to that level of personal development where we have to understand there is a universe and an ether element or an environment and everything that is around us is affected by the environment, then we don't have a top half of the body and a thyroid function and the psychic centers available to us. So they're, instead of working in harmony with the rest of the body and the environment and universe around us, they're working against us because we're going to get the messages coming back to the brain from the bottom half and it's going to be skewed. You'll notice that strong, confident people with good posture present themselves well and we believe them more often because they do the good things for themselves. You know, whereas that grandma walking down the street, you just feel sorry and sympathetic for her and you don't listen to her because she's totally fear-based. And she's scared of the entire planet. And if we're unable to move, and those parasites have just grown over 40, 50, 60 years, how can we trust and rely on that person for quality thought patterns? It's just impossible. It just doesn't, the body doesn't work that way. It's ridiculous, really. And of course, the other thing is perspective. If we're looking up, like when we're a little child and we're in our little pram, and we're looking up at Dad. You know, Dad was a hero, he was a legend, he could do lots of things that we couldn't do. We could rely on him for our sense of safety and security. And if we're looking up at someone who's got a terrible body and we think's good, but if you're good at thinking, you don't need to think. You just allow it to come. Takes a fair bit of work to get there, but you can, it's easy enough. If a person hasn't got to that, they're looking up at the perspective of God or the universe. How can you see past it when you're looking through a lens? And we're looking through the lens of all our chakra or endocrine glands. So it's impossible and completely impossible for someone to theorize from that perspective of what's going on in the universe when they're underneath it and they can't see it. It's like putting on 7 pairs of glasses. Oh, and by the way, if someone needs glasses, they've added a layer of perception, and that's linked to their gut health. So, fix up the gut, you fix up the eyes. How can they look above it? Nikola Tesla, and anyone who's reached enlightenment, or at least awakened the third eye, at least, then you can have decent quality thought patterns. People will pay attention and respect you because you can present yourself that way. And then, oh look, if we can see the universe with at least some of our front brain, and ideally the back of the brain at Bindu point, then we have clearer perspective. And then once you can look down upon it and you can look at the view, it's a lot easier to understand. And without that ability, how can we trust a person on the universe? They're not, because they're actually just looking up at it through their own thought patterns of their own electrical conductivity, which is completely reliant upon their bodily imbalances and ridiculous amount of parasites in their body, especially if you don't move. And you'll notice that those thought patterns are projected out into those theories on how the universe works. It's just a false illusion. Because it's a machine-like or a nematode-like form of thinking. Understand? Let it settle in, it's a bit tricky. Seems easy now when you get enlightened. But when you get enlightened, you go up here and you go, it's like going on a hike and you go up to a high point as a lookout on a cliff. And you go, oh yeah, we were down there last week, you know, yesterday, oh, we came all the way up there. And then we climbed the stairs and now we can see the view of what the universe is like because our body is the universe and we've replicated the body shape and have a good quality body. Until a person has done that, they're still looking up at the lookout point. How can they have, when they're halfway or their body is still focused on their large intestine, we're still in our safety and security issues. So there's going to be a big polarity in those nervous system thought patterns and perspective through all of the critters and the imbalances in the body. How can we have clarity when all that's going on? It's not possible. As you know, clarity comes in moments of stillness when you're in the shower and you're at the beach and you're meditating and you're just feeling great. If a person's unable to do that, they'll never get there. Oh look, guess what's up here in the universe? Not much. It's called a void for a reason. The vacuum. There's not much in a vacuum. There's a machine powering it, but when you get into the bag, there might be a bit of dust and a bit of shit. Once you clear that, you can see the perception and the perspective because you've cleared all the shit out of your gut, which is the mind. Make sense? Because you can only explain it when you're in the simple terms when you understand it. You know, if you can explain something in 1 or 2 sentences and the other person gets it, you've got good communication skills, you understand it, and it's not technical. If you're making something technical, you don't understand it. Seems easy enough, right? Because that's what people who, you know, have bodily reached spiritual teacher will understand the universe. Because the information will come through their body cleanly. This is why ancient mystery schools had initiations of 3, 7 and 10-day water fasts with daily colonics before esoteric teachings began. Then they would have 7 years. It's like monasteries and clergy members would all be in their own little world, cleaning and chanting and purifying their body and herbalism and eating in accordance with the universe and moving their body with beautiful martial arts and yoga and things. These things have been there for tens of thousands of years for human history and will continue to because they work well. And these people have perfected the body by testing it and sharing it and checking it out and then teaching. But if we're teaching from a filthy body with lots of parasites in our body, that message is going to get skewed. Look, it's on the symbolism, snakes. Kundalini serpent, the caduceus is in the medical symbol. It's right in front of our doctors and they can't see it. Pretty funny, isn't it? So, hopefully that has provided a better understanding, and let's stop looking up at people and putting them on a pedestal, because we're all oneness. We can absolutely learn from each other, absolutely, totally, in every moment. But if we put someone on a pedestal, then we're actually not allowing ourselves to think of it for ourselves and find those bodily parts that the esoteric teachings are designed to do. Find that nervous system ether element blockage, and if we have a reaction to it, then it's time for us to own that, sort it out, fix it, get it out of the body, clean it up. So, was Stephen Hawkins a parasitic nematode? Or a demon? Stuck in the matrix system? Calling the body and the mind a machine? Yeah, absolutely. Seems pretty obvious now, doesn't it? Make your mind up for yourself. We can only ever prove something to ourselves. I'm just providing some information and some conceptual awarenesses from my level of wisdom, currently chakra 20. Enlightenment's number 7. Pretty handy when you get past it. Clear perception, absolutely wonderful.